He was regarded as one of the main casualties arising from the dead baby scandal that's been plaguing hospitals in Jamaica. But the former chief of medical staff at the University Hospital of the West Indies, UHWI, Professor Trevor McCartney, says his resignation isn't an admission of guilt. The University Hospital is one of 2 public health care facilities that has found itself in the middle of controversy. 12 babies died at the UHWI following an outbreak of Klebsiella and Serratia viruses between June and October. However, Mr. McCartney claims that he only stepped down because the board of the hospital was insistent that the hospital should take the blame for handling the infectious outbreak. In breaking his silence on the incident, Mr. McCartney told the Jamaica Gleaner on Wednesday, quote, "The board wished the medical staff to have some part to play, and we thought not so at all. What they wanted was to remove the pressure from the Ministry of Health," end quote. Professor McCartney explains that his decision to step down as the head of medical staff could be perceived as assuming culpability, hence his decision to clear the air. In the meantime, he's also rejecting claims by the chief medical officer in the Ministry of Health, Dr. Marian Bullock-Ducasse, about when the minister was informed about the second bacterial outbreak at the hospital. He told the Gleaner that on September 7, he wrote Dr. Marian Bullock-Ducasse informing her that in June there had been 4 cases of the Serratia infection in the hospital's neonatal intensive care unit, which was contained within days. He explains that in the same letter, Dr. Bullock-Ducasse was also advised of a subsequent Klebsiella outbreak identified in late August. He adds that the correspondence outlined the steps that were being taken to contain the bacterial outbreak. Mr. McCartney argues that he provided the information to the Health Ministry in a bid to seek assistance from the Public Health Department and to secure financial help from the Ministry of Health. He claims that the country's chief medical officer didn't respond until 2 weeks later on September 21. Professor McCartney's series of events contradicts what Dr. Bullock-Ducasse told the nation last week. On Wednesday, October 28, Dr. Bullock-Ducasse told a Jamaica House press briefing that the minister's response was immediate. She said she was only made aware of the issue on October 16, and she said the letter only spoke to an already contained outbreak of the viruses.
The first information of an outbreak taking place currently was received on the 16th of October 2015. The University Hospital was immediately contacted to verify this, and a report on the situation was requested. The Ministry of Health technical team also participated in meetings on the 17th and 18th, and in a meeting convened by the Chief Medical Officer on Monday the 19th, a review of all the data was conducted and the appropriate guidance in terms of the continuing measures to minimize any loss of life or spread of infection. I would like to point out that at no time did the Chief Medical Officer or the Ministry of Health units, which are in the routine system to receive information, receive any advisories of these outbreaks.
Asked whether he thinks Dr. Bullock-Ducasse should step aside, Professor McCartney refused to comment. But if the last week's Jamaica House press briefing is anything to go by, Dr. Bullock-Ducasse isn't caving in to public pressure to quit.
My future is something that I consider at all times.
Some folks have said you should step aside. What do you say to that? Do you think you should?
That is what they have said.
Meanwhile, Dr. McCartney is disputing the amount of babies that died at the University Hospital of the West Indies as a result of the Klebsiella and Serratia viruses. Initially, the country was told by health officials that 12 babies had died from the bacterial outbreak at the UHWI. However, Professor Trevor McCartney told the Gleaner on Wednesday that a total of 8 babies died. According to McCartney, 8 babies died, 1 in June from the Serratia bacteria, 6 in August and September from Klebsiella pneumonia, and 1 in October from Pseudomonas. The health ministry has been reporting that a total of 42 babies were infected over the period from June to October. Health Minister Dr. Fenton Ferguson and his team have consistently said as a result of the bacteria, 12 babies died at the University Hospital in St. Andrew and 7 at the Cornwall Regional Hospital in Montego Bay. And a convener of Hear the Children's Cry, Betty Ann Blaine, has been reacting to the latest development. She says it's pretty clear that Professor Trevor McCartney considers himself a scapegoat. She is calling for an independent investigation into the deaths of the 19 babies.
Today's statement by Professor McCartney that he's not going to essentially he's not going to be the scapegoat. In other words, he was forced to resign. Essentially, that's what he is saying. That leads us to say that it seems clear that there needs to be an independent investigation into what happened. We hear different people saying different things, and so it's clearer and clearer that there needs to be an independent body. I don't know who those persons are going to be, but it seems very clear to us that this now requires an independent investigation. 19 babies died. I believe most of those deaths were absolutely, preventable, that these were needless deaths. That's what we maintain. And I think it needs an independent investigation.
And Mrs. Blaine is encouraging the families affected to take legal action.
That the real victims are the 19 babies who died and, of course, their families. Because in all of this, people are defending themselves and saying this and the other. And you get the feeling that they think they're the victims. But in truth and in fact, the tragedy really is about these 19 babies who we believe died unnecessarily. I think it could have been prevented, and how we're going to ferret out the truth. My recommendation to the 19 families is that they band together and file a class action suit, and in doing that they seek to get independent experts, people perhaps, here, perhaps others outside of Jamaica, who can study the evidence, who can do the investigations in an impartial manner. Because I think we need to know, I think the public wants to know what exactly happened.
She is also adamant that the Health Minister, Dr. Fenton Ferguson, should resign.
I believe that he should have tendered his resignation a long time ago. In other words, he shouldn't have to wait till the Prime Minister asks him or anybody else forces him. But, we don't have a culture where people, resign at that level. And this is one of the problems with Jamaica. And it sends the wrong message, particularly to our youth.